Black British Dynasties in Music, a family affair. In conversation with Trey and Lincoln John Marie.
I'm good. What's your name?
I'm Robert Bruce. So I'm a radio presenter by day or by morning, I should say. So I currently do the breakfast show at Capital Extra. If you heard of Capital Extra. Yeah, so I've been up since 3:30 this morning, but I'm used to it.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
There's big man.
Rob, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Sorry, I'm going out of the studio into another room to just have the chat.
No worries. Thank you. Have you been briefed on what's going on?
Vaguely.
Lightly.
Yeah.
Everyone keeps saying that.
Yeah, just a light brushing, really.
So as far from what I'm aware of, there's going to be an exhibition and I'm having conversations with Black families within music. Mm-hmm. So it's less of an interview and it's sort of more of a conversation between the both of you. And I'll just poke and prod in different directions.
Okay.
And it's just getting your experiences. So I just came from speaking to TSB and Maestro, producers, which is good. I interviewed J5, Cruds, and ODG from NSG.
Nice.
Nikki and Matty Brown. Yeah, that was cool. And Kwame Kwarteng and his son, NK from Blue Lab Beats. So I've just been learning loads, basically. So it would have been great if I could have done it in person, but I think we can still capture it. And I think they're going to take pictures of you for the exhibition.
Yes.
Then your words and conversations will play over the pictures.
Okay, got you.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's really, to be fair, it's really cool. Now I can't wait to see the final product, but we're all going in a little bit blind with it.
That was exciting, and yeah, I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much.
Very grateful. I was very surprised because Trey told me last week, and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, It's nice to be acknowledged, you know."
Yeah, no, and it's like when you hear some of the stories and you get the contrast of experiences, especially within families, it's so amazing. It's so amazing. So that's hopefully what we can capture today. And yeah, any tangents you want to go on, feel free. I always find a way to bring it back and stuff. But the less I talk, the better, basically.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Now, before we go ahead, can you hear me clearly? Is my sound quality all right?
It's all good on my end.
Yep. Same here.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Great. Let's go.
Yeah. And the signal's all good on my end, right? Are you guys?
Yeah.
Pretty clear. Yeah.
Perfect.
I don't even know where to begin.
What do you want to talk about?
Don't worry. Yeah, let me give you an intro. So it's Robert Bruce right here. We are on Zoom and we are continuing our series of having amazing conversations with amazing families within music. I'm super excited to learn loads today in this conversation we're about to have. But before we start, I want to go to you guys directly. Can I get a hello? My name is, and I am. From the both of you.
Hello, my name is Lincoln John Marie, and I'm the proud father of Trey John Marie, Uber producer.
I'm Trey John Marie, writer, producer, and proud son to Lincoln John Marie. And my mum, who can't be here as well. He's also a musician, Valerie John Marie.
Amazing musician.
Wow. So, what things have the both of you been involved with that people might have known or heard or seen?
Trey, you go first.
So I would say my break into the industry, I did I produced Craig David Comeback album, so I did 8 songs on there. More recently I did a song for a DJ called Nathan Dorr, and that was I've done most of his releases now, but the song in particular was one of the nominees for Best British Single at the Brits 2020. That's probably my biggest song so far.
Okay, and Lincoln, what have you been involved with?
Wow. Okay.
He's modest, so he's not gonna.
Yeah, please. If he's being modest, please feel free to.
I will.
Yeah, don't let him.
No. You know what? All right, so my first big thing, what blew my mind, I saw Boyz II Men. They did a video, right, of So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday, and I heard that and it blew my mind, right? So I went to sleep, and this is so weird how things work out, because within a couple of days, I met this guy who was also a singer, and he told me he was part of an a cappella band. I was like, okay. So he goes, well, come down to the studio. So I met these guys. Anyway, cut long story short, we started doing a lot of competitions. People really liked what we were doing. And then the next thing, we were performing at the Hackney Empire and stuff like that. And within a couple of years, we got signed to Warner Brothers, and we were called Piece by Piece. And then we won the MOBO Awards as the best newcomers in 1996.
The first ever one, right?
Huh?
That was the first ever MOBOs, right?
Yeah, that was the first MOBOs. We were up against quite a few different people, and we won. And it was like really mind-blowing. It'd taken a long time to get there, but the fact that we were recognized for what we did, and then the Dream Team, which was doing garage, they were a garage outfit at the time, they did a remix of one of our songs. And to be honest, we just didn't get it, because to us, we were like deep into the R&B, like Jodeci, Boyz II Men, all that sort of stuff. That was our format of music. But then they were doing the garage, and it just sounded really odd, like rhythmically, but it was huge on the underground, right? And then anyway, stuff happened, didn't work out with Warner's, released a couple of singles, didn't work out with them, but we had such a great time. We went to LA, we recorded the album, and then after that, I kind of stumbled into session work. So then the first big gig I got was Craig David, right?
Oh, okay.
Parallels are mad. I was going to get into that in a bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I kind of ended up in his band in a really strange way, doing backing vocals for him. And the first time I met him, he goes, "You were in that band, weren't you?" This is really surreal, right? He goes, "You were in a band." I remember that, because he was a DJ apparently, and he said, "I bought your CD, and you guys are in the front." And he's describing the way the CD looked, and I was like, "What do you know, man?" Anyway, I stayed in the band for like 3 years. Took Trey to one of the concerts, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's a strange time loop, because Trey actually grew up to be this incredible producer who produced his stuff. And it's just, to me,
And it was complete. It was a complete coincidence.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean,
it wasn't like, you know, my dad introduced me to Craig or the team or whatever. It was a complete coincidence. And the fact that I ended up, you know, like working on that whole album and then like being on the tour, and then Dad came down to the tour and like reunited with Craig.
Wow.
And it was just like, it was so weird, because I remember going to the show, being
you're
like,
younger.
must have been
Actually, that's what I was going to
2001.
say. Actually, we jumped ahead a bit. My next question was going to be, give us a brief timeline of your careers. So we've started with you, Lincoln. So I want to just make sure I get it all. So you joined the a cappella outfit, Piece to Piece.
That was 1992, July 1992, right?
92, signed when?
I think we signed quite late. I think we must have signed in 1996, because we signed, and soon after that, we went to LA to record the album. Then we stayed on Warner Brothers till about 98, 99. Then I kind of got into session singing about the same time after it finished. Then I did Craig. Then after that, I did a stint with Lamar in his band. I don't know if you remember Lamar.
Yeah.
And then after that, I did the George Michael band for like about 6 years. And that was a whole nother level of stuff again. So we did the world tours and all that.
Yeah. And that takes us to when? What year does that take us to?
So the let me see, the Lamar would have been around 2005. No, Craig David would have been about 1999 to 2003. Then 95 was Lamar, and then 96 was George Michael till 2012, and then some bits. And in between that, I was doing just loads of different sessions for different people. And then I did the Jubilee in 2012, the Olympics in the same year as part of the house band. So yeah, just everything, just a voice for hire, basically. I just ended up doing that, and I absolutely loved it. And in between that, writing my own albums, producing my own albums, and yeah, that's it. So bringing me up to now, and now at this time, I don't tour anymore. I produce music for adverts and film, library music. see
Wow.
music. So that's my thing, and I absolutely love it. You know, so I'm eternally grateful to the good Lord, you know, to give me the talent and the space to be able to do it.
And Trey is born when? What year?
1993. So
93, Trey. Okay.
he grew up just knowing music because the other guys, Delmar Edwards, Trey Fisher, and PJ Campbell, who I was with yesterday, actually, we're still in touch. They were always around, so he knew them as, you know, he calls them uncle still. And I remember there was one, I said this to you yesterday, innit, Trey? I said there was one time when his mum was heavily pregnant and we were all singing a cappella to her belly, singing it to him. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So I like to think that the vibe of what we were singing actually just entered Trey because he was just so super ridiculously musical now.
I feel like with you and mum, it was inevitable, really.
Yeah.
When I really think about it.
Yeah.
You know.
So Trey, what are your first memories of music? Like, what would you say was played in the house when you first started to listen to music?
It's a good question. My first memories of music definitely aren't, like, I couldn't place it to a song, but I definitely all my early memories of music are just my parents singing.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah. Mum singing around the house, having like tapes of like You Dad and yeah, like they're my earliest memories.
Trey's mum was an amazing singer and pianist as well. And when we met, she was actually doing it way before me. And I remember I went to see her at a show and she said, "Oh, I've got a friend in the audience," and she was calling me. And I was like, no, you know what I mean? I just didn't want to get involved, you know? But so she was just great. She was already an artist. So I guess me and her combined.
Yeah, and then, you know, as I got older, my mum set up a music school in North London as well, and started teaching quite a few kids. And she went on to like she now plays. She's an amazing singer, but she also plays piano, guitar, trumpet. I think she plays a bit of violin. Like, she went and learned everything. Wow. She's one of those kind of people, and it's really rewarding to go down to the school and see, you know, her teaching quite a few kids. It's amazing.
So did you pick up instruments as well through when your mom started? Like, what's your timeline now as well?
You know, instrument wise, I play keys now. I'd say a lot of it self-taught. I did get forced into piano lessons. I did get forced in, but I was also a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? Strong-minded child. So it didn't last too long. And I wish I did actually, but everything I kind of know now from like a instrument point of view is self-taught, I would say. When did I really start getting? I really started getting into music, I'd say 14.
Okay.
13, 14. I moved out of London. So I ended up getting into grammar school in Lincolnshire. And so, like, I'm from Hackney, and we just packed up and moved out there for my school.
The whole family?
So my parents aren't together, so it's me and my mum, we moved up.
Okay.
And it was a real culture shock, in the sense that it was one of those vibes, like I was the only black kid in the school, and just like a young black kid coming straight from Hackney in the school where everything about me is just different. And when I think back, I feel like me getting into music was kind of me having like a reconnect, because I wasn't down so often, and I didn't see, like, you know, friends in the estate that I grew up, and like I was like, I don't know, at the time I was the only one listening to grime, because while everyone else was listening to indie music. And I really started, you know, just getting into music. It was like an escape, but also I learned a lot of stuff. So you'd have compulsory music classes at school, and I'd end up like doing group sessions with these guys that play guitar, and I became really interested in that. And then I started traveling back and forth to London, and just getting into sessions and like trying to bring new knowledge into that. And I got really into pop music.
Okay.
You know, I felt like I and it's so easy. It's so easy as a young black. When I think of black producers from the UK, I feel like, you know, all the guys you mentioned earlier, J5, TSB, like I know them all so well and they're so talented. And I feel like it's a shame that the industry tries to put labels on us in the sense that, you know, like you'll call them for a particular thing when I know that they're capable of so much more. And I think from the jump, when I kind of came back to London, I tried to make a conscious decision to not do what people expect from me for a while and do the pop circuit so that I didn't get pigeonholed. And it's mad because when I think of like pop black producers in the UK, me, MNEK, Inflow, like there's not really many of us on who do like the pop projects. And so I just tried to do that. I was like rapping at like 14, and then I started writing hooks. Like I was like 14 years old, 15 years old, going to like Luton Uni to write hooks for like New Brand Flex, and like you know what I mean, like back then. And then through that I met like Blue Robinson and Master Shorty, and then through that I met some more like pop acts, and then I just started. It kind of spiraled from there. The Craig thing, it was always meant to just be one session. Pick you off. Say hi. Hi. My dad, Rob.
Hello. Man.
I'm good. How are you? You saying bye.
Bye, thank you. How are you?
Have a good one. I've got an over now. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Me and Nuz have just been working today. Actually, that works really well for the timeline because so me and MNEK have worked together since he's like a year or so younger than me, but since I was about 15, and he's always been in the pop thing as well.
Early.
Yeah. So like it's been like 14 years now that we've worked together, and we've you know kind of come up together, and a lot of the stuff that he's created on I Am and vice versa.
If I can interject, Trey used to, because I used to pick him up most weekends, right? So he was with me on the weekends a lot of the time, and he'd play me these demos, and he'd tell me about MNEK, or he'd call him Uzo, and they were amazing already. And he must have only been what, 14?
Yeah.
Wow. And just the lyrical content alone, the way he put his lyrics together, I was like, this dude is really clever. But what I noticed about Trey and him, even at that early point, is their work ethic was insane already. They were so focused on where they were going, you know, and it was just so impressive. So I wasn't surprised, you know, well, I still am kind of surprised at the level of what Trey's done. But
I think most people just, they want it, but they don't want it. Because when I say to people, we had this discussion briefly yesterday that like, if a young producer contacts me and is like, hey, how do I do this? And I give them an opportunity, and I'm like, okay, cool, I've got this for you. Like, I need it by the morning. And they're like, oh, I can't, I've got to sleep because I've got this. See me? I would have been up all night, then I would have taken a Pro Plus, then I would have gone back to school, and then I would have slept on the couch somewhere for 2 hours. Then you've got to, if you want it.
Where did that come from?
I know it's genetic because I'm exactly the same.
Yeah, definitely.
Really? Seriously,
definitely from my parents.
I really do not like flaky people. So I'm known to not really have patience when I'm doing a session or writing. If somebody is flaky, I just can't do it because I love what I do so much. You got to come on the same energy level as me. But this guy has come along, Mr. Jean-Marie 2.0, and he's on a whole nother level. You know what I mean? Like he's like a workhorse. He doesn't stop. So when you love something, you have to really, really, really want it.
That's the thing. And like, you know, I get tired at times, but I love it. And so it doesn't feel, even when it feels like work, it's not like, I love it. It's a real privilege to be able to do this day in, day out. And I just remind myself of that, and I keep pushing through.
That's amazing. So we're moving on from 14. When you're about like 16, is that when you're coming down and?
Yeah, so I moved back down to London when I was 16. And from there on, it was just sessions. I like probably I know my dad wanted me to like continue doing education and stuff, but there was no plan B for me. It was,
Trey, another interjection, man. So let Rob, I gotta tell you this, right? From the time that Trey was very small up until he was about 13, 14, he didn't even appear musical. He was just super
Really?
smart, especially with math, from my point of view, right? He was super smart, especially with mathematics and things like that, like really smart. And I was like,
Mhm.
and then he used to say to me, I want to be a lawyer. I was like, yes, my son wants to be a lawyer. I was like, awesome. And then he got to about 13, 14, and he said, I want to be a music lawyer. I said, yeah, cool, man. Cool. Yeah, do you think? I'm right behind you, son. And then one day he came to me and he goes, Dad, you know what? I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I want to do music.
Wow.
And to be honest with you, my heart kind of went, of all the people, I couldn't say anything to him. He's grown up seeing me on TV. He's grown up seeing me do music,
yeah.
you know. And then I just thought, I've just got to trust the process. And man,
Yeah, I feel like
just it's like a button went off, and he just became completely musical. Completely.
wow. It's
I think
so
it was always there. I've just never really
Yeah.
like. I'm the type of person that I internalize a lot of things, and I'll think about things, and then when I'm ready, it always seems impulsive, but actually I've been thinking about stuff and devising a plan. And then so after you know, just grinding, doing the sessions, a few things here and there, a few songs here and there, but like I said earlier, the Craig thing was really the first thing. So that was 2015.
the Craig thing, the first like
That's the thing where I'd say people really started taking me seriously.
okay.
Like I had
done anything before that people would know of?
So my first ever cut was Smiler, Top of the World, with Professor Green and a girl called Tabia, and that like just kind of entered the top 40, and then you know one of those ones where it kind of just bubbles under. I did a bit of work with Jacob Banks, like the early Jacob Banks stuff as well.
Yeah.
But Craig was the first time that I experienced like radio play and royalties, and you know, and like people calling because they wanted me, as opposed to me knocking on the door and really trying to get in. That was the first time I really experienced that. And so that was 2015. I don't think anybody could have really predicted for him to come back in the way that he did. And so yeah, did that. And then from there it was like Tom Grennan and Joy Crooks and Mabel. Like I'm in with Mabel now. We're doing a whole week together, stuff and Little Mix, and you know, it really started to spiral from there, and I'm just not taking my foot off the gas.
Yeah, it's one of the ones when you get in, because you know how hard it is to get in.
Yeah, man.
There's no time.
Yeah.
And there's so much people that want to as well. You can't lose your
Lincoln,
for you as a dad, I always find this so interesting, yeah, because all the parents that I've spoke to, when their kids want to get into music, they're always apprehensive. But I always thought they'll be like, so like, yes, like finally they're on board. Is there like a protective thing of, because you know how hard and rough it could be, you want like, what is that? Why does your heart drop at that point?
Because I'm a man whose kids, they're my life. Do you know what I mean? I'd give my life for my children. So naturally, I know that the music industry, I've seen it, I've lived it, that there are lots of racist elements in it. Undercover, it's very neat, very subtle, but I've worked in so many different parts of the industry. I know it, right? So, and there's a lot of deceit. There's a lot of people who are amazing actors and they pretend to be your friends, but when it boils down to it, they're not your friends. You know what I mean? But it's all part of the game. So you have to learn to definitely be grounded with a family outside, and then you're cool. You know, you don't take it on board. But I didn't. When Trey said that to me, I was like, okay, I know how it can be. But I know he was always a tough kid, like he's resilient, and I just had to.
Yeah.
I kind of believed in him because he's never been a weak-willed person.
Also, I think watching, you know, you and Mum, and also kind of like picking up even subconsciously, even if we didn't have conversations about it, just being a kid and being a sponge, having conversations about different elements of the business and overhearing you and like uncles talking about different elements of the business and stuff. I think there was a lot of things when it came to the business side of it, whereas a lot of people have to like learn it from scratch and like make mistakes and stuff. There was a lot of elements that I felt like I already I had a leg up in that sense.
Yeah, because
I already knew what to watch out for.
Yeah, and we always spoke. There's one thing I used to say to Trey. I love music, not so much the business side, but I love music. It's my life, right? And I used to say to him, remember, I don't know if you remember this, Trey. Remember, they're not your friends.
Yeah.
They're to do business. Remember that. I was just to say, and it's not to be cynical. It's just being practical. Just focus. Forget about the balling and all that. That can be later. All the yachts and all that stuff. Just focus on what you're doing. And the guy took it to heart. Me, I do not play any instruments, even up to now, just about. But because of logic, I can program music, and people would never know, right? But what the thing I've got is something called synesthesia. So in my mind, I see the music, I see it in colors and shapes, and that allows me, that's helped me know it. I don't read music, but I hear everything. When I'm composing music, I hear it all in my head, everything, the drums, the strings, then I can break it down and play it. So we've all got a little something, and we all arrive at that point, you know what I mean? So long as you just keep working at it and grinding, you know?
Yeah.
And
Trey, what's your thing? What is the thing that the both of you share? Because you said work ethic already. Is there anything like musically or even personality-wise?
Stubbornness.
We're both stubborn. We are both stubborn. Musically, though,
yeah. Used to listen to a lot of Donny Hathaway, and I don't know if you still like it now, but Donny Hathaway is my favorite singer.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really thought about that. It's a good question.
Do you think the generation gap is a bit far?
I think that we listen to different things, but I like you introduced me to a lot of music, and I think it's funny. Like I find it's always better to be influenced by. There's no point in me listening to if I'm trying to make a song if I'm trying to make a song for Mabel right now, and it's like an Afro swing song. I don't want to listen to an Afro swing song for inspiration. It just doesn't make sense. I'll end up copying and making a worse version of what I've already heard. Yeah. I think it's better to, if you're gonna. I mean, we're all influenced by things, and I think it's better to pull from older things and be like, oh, that's cool. Like, why don't we try and do that in a new way?
Here's one. I think we had NERD because I absolutely loved NERD, the first few albums. So I used to listen to that all the time. And you kind of liked it, right?
Yeah. I mean, the Neptunes are my favorite production.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we definitely had the Neptunes and Pharrell Williams in common because I absolutely love what he does. But yeah, I listen to all sorts of stuff from rock, pop, everything, as long as it's good music. So we used to play music. So I guess
it's funny how, like, you know, so the one parallel being Craig, and like just being a complete coincidence that 15 years later I'm then working with Craig, or I work with a producer who's based in Denmark that my managers also look after, and they produced one of my dad's he produced one of my dad's band singles.
Wow.
Or like I bump into like managers like Steve Jervier who knew you like years ago, or like people that knew my mum years ago, or like a cousin Leon Jean-Marie. People hear my last name and confuse me with him. He's also a really talented musician, was signed to Ireland and has done a bunch of amazing things. It's like it's just mad the amount of parallels that there are.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
I think
talk to me about the first time. So your big moment was the Craig moment, Trey.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the first time you remember getting a paycheck from music? And I want to see what was the similarities and the differences for your first experiences.
Who me?
For the both of you, yes. I want to know both of your first times where music paid the bills, essentially.
Oh, right.
What that felt like.
For me, it's when we got signed to Warner Brothers. We went to about 5 different majors, and our manager was trying to get us, and they just couldn't get it. A lot of them kept saying the same thing. Oh, you guys sound too American, because we were meant to be the British answer to Boyz II Men. Our thing was a cappella and harmony, right? And they just didn't get it. And then this one guy got it, and then we got signed to Warner Brothers. So then
How old were you then?
Huh?
How old were you then?
28, 20, no, yeah, about 29, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Anyway.
Just younger than what you are now, isn't it? Trey.
I'm 29, so
You're 29. Oh,
a
same.
bit old, around Trey's age. And then we got signed, and then obviously the advance. So I was like, oh, this music video is all right. So that was good. That was good. And then after that, when I did the bigger tours like George Michael, that paid super well as well. So those are 2 huge things where you thought, okay, yeah, this is great. Thank you, God.
And then you, Trey, what was your experience of getting that first check?
I mean, I don't really remember the small ones because I guess I was like moving back to London and being 16. I was living with family. My only responsibility would have been my phone bill. Like I didn't have to pay for it for anything, so I was kind of like I didn't need to. But 2014, I signed with BMG for publishing, and that's if you like, as soon as you asked the question, that was the first thing I thought of, because that was the day the money went in, Rob. Yeah, it all went out again. I bought a flat. Not on stupidness. I bought.
Okay, good. Yeah.
That's right.
The day the money went in, I'd already done the figures in my head before even signing the deal. I knew what I was doing when it came in. The day it came in, it went back out. I bought a flat, and I felt like, wow, like I did this with ideas from here. It's crazy.
Because you're like 2021, right?
I was 21, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. The reason I asked, because you guys have obviously gone on to do more. So is it like, does getting it give you that more hunger? If that makes sense. For you, Trey, obviously the money probably went out, so you're probably thinking, yeah, this is it now. Like,
you know what?
I do fully.
I don't know if it's the same for you, that. Well, I hope it is, because for me, it's like I've got 2 kids now, and but even before then, I mean, I think just it's always been a massive driving factor for me. Has always been fear.
Yes.
Okay.
And like, I'm not saying it was a good idea for me to use every penny I had on buying that flat. I'm glad it all worked out, but it definitely drove the fear into me. Like, shit, how am I going to maintain this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, that was my kind of thing. Dad?
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. You notice me nodding frantically when he's talking. I didn't want to interrupt him. Fear. It's like that fire under your bum. Like, oh man, I've got a kid, because at the time I just had Trey. I got his younger brother. Yeah. And even when I go away on tour, all I'm thinking of is, right, I got to call him, make sure he's cool, he's okay. It's all about motivation to look after your family and make sure the bills are paid. So it's 2 sides of the brain. You've got the creative side, but then you've got the practical side. But it's just, it's just like a natural propellant. It pushes you forward. And it is fear. And sometimes fear can be used for a good thing.
Yeah, you just got to learn how to channel it.
Yeah, you got to learn how to channel it. Just like anger can be a good thing if you channel it in the right way. You know? Oh, and I've got one more thing. I know when you first got paid, Trey, you won't remember this.
Oh, I know you're gonna, the £20.
No, yes, I don't know if it's mildly embarrassing, but at this point, I really don't care.
No, I remember it was the na 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 na.
Oh, yeah.
Na, 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 na. I remember that.
Yeah, I was doing a session for this lady called P.P. Arnold. She was like a big star in the 70s. I was doing some backing vocals, right? So I took Trey along with me, and he was like 10 or something like that. I took him there, and he was hanging out in the studio playing with his Game Boy or whatever. And then at one point at the end, there's like a bit at the end, na 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 na, right? That bit, right?
Funny how I remember.
She turned around and she said, Trey, because she's a really lovely lady. She said, is that your son? What's his name? Trey. She goes, would you like to join in as well? He goes, oh, wow. I said, yeah, come on, Trey. And Trey, do you know the melody? And he learned it literally. He sang it twice, and he just had it in his head. And he just started singing. And then when we finished, she gave him £10.
Straight buyout.
Wow,
I should call my lawyer.
Yeah.
I goes, yeah, it's all yours. You did that. You got paid for it.
Wow, that's amazing.
That was.
I want to dig into your journeys with Craig David a little bit more, because I think this is a nice, interesting story. So I don't know where we should start. If we start with you, Trey, or with you, Link, like, how did it all come back around full circle? Or maybe we start with you, Trey, and then we see your perspective on everything, Lincoln.
I got an email asking to work with Craig, my managers. It was just like, would I like to try something out? And at this point, I think Craig, like, I don't really know the backstory there, but I know he left the UK and lived in Miami for a while and just wasn't really taking music seriously, and like was just more doing DJing, but like over there. And I think he might have had a residency on Kiss or something. And I was kind of like, if I'm honest, I was like, but I was like, I remember thinking, one, Craig David, British legend, icon. Two, he's talented, and like, yeah. And three, I was like, I remember thinking, how amazing would it be? I think I rang you after that first session, Dad. I was like, how amazing would it be to just work with Craig David, knowing, you know,
yeah,
and see how it goes. And we got on really well. And then I was like, at this point, there was no. The great thing about the Craig thing for me is that he wasn't really in the best place creatively, and there was no plan for there was no like big campaign. Like, oh, okay, this is when Craig's gonna.
We need this.
We were just making songs, and the idea was like we could pitch them for other artists and stuff. We weren't really. I just enjoyed working with him. We weren't even thinking about an album. I remember getting a call from Stanza, and he said to me, I was in the studio with Craig, and he was like, "Oh, we're doing this feature with Corrupt FM on Mr. Jam's show, and like we're just looking for garage legends. We've got Shola Amma. I was just wondering if you had any ideas." And I was like, Craig was over there. I was kind of like, "What about Craig David?" And then he ended up going on the show, and then that was like the first big viral moment when Craig David, like the Justin Bieber instrumental, was like the first big viral moment for Craig to come back, and it was like the leap stomp at everything, and then like 2 months later, he ended up signing to Sony again, and what became the bulk of the album was pretty much songs that we'd already been making, and it wasn't. Do you know what I mean? So it just felt really organic.
Yeah.
And it really felt. There's been a few moments in my career where it feels like the universe is really like aligned. The stars are just aligned. And everything's for a reason. And I don't think it's just, without getting too deep, I don't think it's like coincidental that it happened at that moment and it was with that artist, because it's just mad when I think about it.
Yeah, it's too much. Like sometimes when you get moments like this, my head is like, it's just too much. Like it is what I can't even fathom what's going on, sort of thing.
Completely.
And what was it from your point, Lincoln, looking first as a dad, your son's working with Craig David, and then also having the joint knowledge, knowing that you've both worked with this one artist?
It's incredible. For me, it's not the universe at all. That's God right there, to the source. That's the creator right there, because the mathematics of the whole thing is just insane, right? I take the guy to see Craig.
I was 8.
He was 8, right? He sees Craig. He met with the band members because he came around, he didn't meet Craig, but he saw Craig when he was 8. Anyway, I'm working with Craig, and that's all over and stuff. And then for him to grow up, and I think the only thing he might have said to you, Jean-Marie, are you?
It was the first time I sent him a bounce, because he just knew me as Trey. He didn't. And then it was the first time I sent him a bounce of one of the songs that we did, and he saw the last name.
Because there's not many of us in the industry, right? So it's not like we're sniff or something,
Yeah.
But to see when Trey called me, he said, I'm working with Craig David. I was like, huh? Okay. And then just to see how their relationship developed and into a friendship, because Craig is a lovely guy. He's a really nice guy and ridiculously talented. And just to see how they clicked and gelled, I was like, wow. And then here's another one, Rob. So about 3 years ago, I got contacted by a Japanese guy from a Japanese record company in Tokyo. And he said he was a huge fan of my band. Like, he likes 90s R&B. He's a huge fan of my band, and they'd like to re-release our album from Warner's in Japan. I said, yeah, sure, knock yourself out. So we got all the old stuff, and we sent it to him, and they released the CD in Tokyo, and it sold quite well because they still sell a lot of physicals out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, he sent me a picture, right? He sent me a picture of him in Tower Records, because they still got that out there. Massive store in Tokyo, and it's got the shelf with all the records on there. This is the mind-blowing thing for me, right? Because it was like a pyramid, a mountain shape, and then it had our CD, because I think it done really well. It was really selling. And then just next to it was Craig's CD. The Time Is Now, right?
No, it was Following My Intuition. Well, it could have been either, because I did both, but yeah.
It was one of them albums next to it.
Right next to it.
In Tokyo, dude. I've got the picture. I was like, no, that's not coincidence, man. That is like a whole nother set of maths that we can't even figure out yet. But it was just incredible. It was like, wow, this is ridiculous. And just their friendship blew me away, how they gelled and worked and what they came out with, man. It was like, yeah, wonderful. Absolutely amazing.
It's crazy. Do you feel... Yeah, sorry, go on, Jay, go on.
I was just gonna one last thing on Craig. Like, when I think about musical memories, and like, I think that was my first experience of a concert. It's definitely the first experience I remember. And I remember like you having the moment, the backing singers had like solo moments, and I remember you singing Joe.
That's right.
Like,
that's right.
That was my first experience of a concert. So it's just
Yeah, that's right.
When you have stuff like that, do you ever feel like, I'm on this earth doing what I was born to do? Like, this was my calling, if that makes sense.
Born to do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All the time. I couldn't be doing anything else. It really feels like everything, my life has just clicked into place. You know what I mean? I genuinely believe that this is my purpose. And when I obviously I didn't know it at the time, but when I think in hindsight, and I think my parents were and what I grew up around, I was like, this was always going to be the case.
I second that. I didn't come from a particularly great upbringing, so for me, music was always my it was my solace. It was my place I went to, and I grew up with so many different types, genres of music, and they all meant everything to me. And I could literally just go. It was almost like having one of them Oculuses, and you could put it on your head, and you're just in a different place, right? You just take me somewhere else, and it's always been my saving grace. So to grow up and do it, I just felt so blessed. I still believe that all humans are here to do different things in different seasons, but yeah, this is my thing, music. It never ever gets tired, and to get paid for it is just the best gift in the world, you know.
So apart from that time when you got the £10 for the vocals, have you ever, both of you worked together? Has work ever overlapped?
Yes. I mean, we haven't written together, have we?
Yeah, we did the thing for what's that? The film with Harriet Tubman.
Yes.
Remember, we pitched something.
Yes, we wrote like a pitch for a movie together. Dad's done backing vocals, being the amount of times I'll give Dad like a last minute, Dad, I need backing vocals done for, you know, this and this. When do you need it done by? Yesterday. Like those kind of calls. But
I still feel weird invoicing him though, you know what I mean?
I'm adamant that invoices me every single time.
Yeah, it feels kind of weird still.
I don't expect freebies, not even from my dad. Like, I don't I don't want that. Like it's your time. You could be doing something else with your time. So I appreciate it. And if I'm getting paid, yeah, I should be paying you. But yeah, so you did backing vocals for me on the Little Mix Christmas single that I produced. You did. I do a lot of stuff for like Britain's Got Talent and America's Got Talent, like all the stuff for that. And
Shane Filan, is it the Westlife?
Yeah. And Dad does like an amazing one-man choir.
No way.
So yeah, you know, I'd always give family the call before I give it to anybody else. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Recently, I've got my mum to do some stuff for me as well.
Wow.
Some stuff. She's in Barbados at the moment, and she's just been doing stuff for me remotely. It's been amazing.
That's wicked. And speaking of family, actually moving things slightly right of music. Trey, you said you got 2 kids now.
Yep.
And how many siblings do you have?
I've got one, a half brother.
And a brother. Okay.
Yeah. And he's much younger.
Is it?
18 years.
By 10 years. Oh wow. Okay.
18.
18. I thought you said by 10. 18 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So that puts him at like 11.
Yeah.
That's right.
Has he got a music bug?
He's got a really good relative pitch.
Okay.
Yeah, he does actually.
Like he records a song and it's always in the same pitch. So I think there's the seeds of something happening there. Yeah.
Let's wait and see. What I was gonna say is, aside from music, how have you, Trey, like taken to parenting after being parented by your dad?
Ooh.
That's interesting, actually. That's a good question.
So I asked
all right. So my son, my oldest son, is gonna start school next week, right?
Wow, congratulations.
And when we were doing open days, the school that he's now going to, I remember like walking through the hallway with my wife and just looking around, and she's just staring at me like, "You weirdo, what are you looking at? Like, why are you just looking around like that?" And I was getting like flashbacks to me being at St. Dominic's in Homerton and walking around it. Like it was weird because they're memories that I'd never thought of before then, but like walking around there with like my mum and dad and thinking, oh my God, I'm now my dad. But like, you know, like my parents weren't together, but they have both been so instrumental in my life and have always been there. And I'm just like, I want to make sure that my kids have exactly the same value. If I could, it's like you just want to repeat and just, you know, and obviously you always want to improve upon everything, but those same morals and values is what I'm trying to instill in my boys now. And who knows, maybe they'll be musical too.
And Lincoln, for you, it's like I always like asking dads these questions because you had to make it up as you go along. I guess we all had to make it up as we go along.
Yeah.
But how did you find navigating that, especially working within music too?
How did I find?
Navigating parenting whilst working in music.
Wow. Okay. So I no. Hold on. Daddy's gonna be. Give me 1 second.
It's okay. So you say you got 2 boys?
Yeah, 2 boys.
Like, so one is just starting like primary school.
One's just turned 4.
4, nice.
And the other one's going to be 2 in November.
Wicked. And where are you based now?
So I moved to Peterborough.
Peterborough. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's near where I went to secondary school, and I met my wife there.
Oh, nice.
But you know, when we had kids, it was like, okay, so we want more space.
Yeah.
And more space means more money.
Yeah.
And like my mum doesn't live in the country anymore. My dad's no longer in London. Her parents aren't in London. It was kind of like, well, why are we staying in London when you know our support system is outside of London? It takes me. I've got a studio at home and in King's Cross. Lovely. On the train to London to King's Cross, it takes me 40 minutes, which is quicker than it was to get to Central when I lived in London anyway. Yeah. So that's
why I don't miss London.
Yeah, it just stopped making sense to me, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And like when I go home, when I leave a session and I get on that train and I go home, I feel like I can switch off. you know, like living in the city, you always feel like there's always something. But it's quite nice that like when I go home now, it's family time.
No, that's good. I got married in November and moved out in November.
Congrats, man.
Good for you, man.
So
Congrats.
I'm on the journey as well. So that's why I always feel like if I'm talking to people, you got to ask all the questions that you're expected to ask, but I need to ask something that will benefit me because it will benefit somebody else.
Yeah.
So if I may interject, right?
Yeah, please.
Carrying on. Sorry about the early interruption.
No worries.
I didn't grow up with my dad, right? Really, I didn't grow up with him, and my mum was super strict, right? So I had a very strict upbringing, and I think kind of some of that filtered in me with my approach to parenting. So it was strict but not strict. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't know, sometimes I say to Trey, was I a bit thingy? And he's always like, no, Dad, you're cool. But I'm sure there's some things he's thinking, nah, my dad was out of order, you know. But you make it up as you go along. But I always used to say, my saying is, when you're bringing up your kids, let love be your pilot. That was always my thing. That's always at the center of my heart. Love is my pilot because I love my kids so much. Yeah, if I shout at you for doing something or I do something like that, it's only because I love you. You know what I mean? And I was always a big believer in having a right mental attitude because I know how the world is, right? So I used to do this crazy thing. Sorry, Trey, I'm going to embarrass you. I was used to say to him, I was used to try and put positive gems into his mind, even from the time he was very small. So I'd hold him up in front of the mirror and I'd say, who are you? Who are you? You know, who loves you? Who loves you? You know what I mean? And I'd make him repeat it like, yeah, God loves me, my dad loves me, my mom loves me. What are you? I'm a tiger. Like a mob. All the time till he was about 9, 10, and he thought it was corny. But by then he was it's very important. And I used to say to him, I don't remember, I used to say to him, you know what, Trey? You are cut out for something different. So when we're walking down the street where we're in Hackney or Tottenham, wherever, you see certain people doing certain things, I didn't even need to say anything because I used to say, you're cut out for don't do that. You're cut out for something different. You know that, right? And I just used to leave it there and let it simmer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about a lot of mental work that we have to do and passing on the positivity. You know what I mean? And anything negative that came from my background, I didn't even want to visit that with Trey as much as possible. That was it. Love was my pilot.
You must be proud to see the seeds growing, and I hope, Trey, you're proud to see it in your kids as well.
Ridiculously proud, man. I ain't got no words. I say the same script. I ain't got no words. Insanely proud. Insanely.
Okay. I have just 2 more things I want to touch on because we've spoken about the journey a bit, but it's 1st of September 2022. What is motivating you? What's inspiring you? And what do you want to achieve from here?
What's motivating me? Motivating me is family. Inspiring me. Ooh, what's inspiring me right now? Let me move on to what I want to achieve. Like I maybe I'm a bit hard on myself, but I still feel like I'm at the very beginning, and I love that feeling. I don't ever want to get, complacent. I don't want to get gassed. I'm just like, I've got so much further to take this. And the beauty of it is being that it's not even just for me anymore. And that's the thing that always drives me to take things to the next level. Whenever I have, and we all have days where we're like not as much energy or whatever, but that keeps me pushing forward for sure. So I guess the next thing for me is just everything that I've done and what people see of me and all the rest of it. I've got plans on how I'm gonna elevate that again. I haven't peaked. I'm not. And the thing with the industry is there's so many people, and Rob, I know you've been around for a minute as well, so you would have seen it in the same way. There's so many people that come and go, or you're like, oh, remember that guy? Like that writer or that producer or that DJ from 10 years ago that you just never hear of again. And you wonder what they're doing on the day to day. It's not going to be me.
No.
I'm gonna like I'm taking this legacy and this name.
Good.
There.
Wicked. And then for you, what did I say? Motivating, inspiring, and what do you want to go on and do from here?
I think I want to help the next generation, like to access that part of themselves. How can I put this? You know, when you really want something and you work for it, just to learn to put away distractions, you know, so find some younger people who really, really want to do it and be a mentor. That's I find that inspiring because I'm a completely different season in my life than Trey. You know what I mean? So a lot of the motivations I did music for before, they're not there anymore. And I've done a lot of things. It's made me travel around the world, and I'd love to be able to teach a lot of younger people, like have the right attitude, get your business right, get your attitude right, focus. You know what I mean? And I know there's always people around, you know, and they could come from, I grew up in Hackney, man. You know what I mean? And that's when Hackney wasn't gentrified with vegan shops. Or Hackney, do you know what I mean? And I saw so many talented people, so many talented friends who were wicked at football, you name it, singing, everything, but they got distracted and they ended up either banged up or something. Do you know what I mean? They ended up not fulfilling their potential. So I'd like to be able to help younger people realize their talent and just focus. And tell them there is a way, because they need to see somebody older than them who's done it already and say, you can do it too. You know what I mean? So that for me is an inspiring thing to look forward to do.
Perfect. And just to round off a question I like to end on, and we start with dad to son first and son to dad. What have you learned from your son?
Oh, wow. I have learned that I thought I was focused and a hard worker. And then when I look at my son, I just think I'm in awe of his work ethic. A man who would work through Christmas Day if you didn't tie his hands behind his back. A man who doesn't take prisoners when there's flaky people and gets the job done. The guy is ridiculously inspiring to me, and he just happens to be my son. So yeah, and then he's a great dad, a great husband, a great provider for his family, and he's living like a baller. There's actually, if I think in my whole life, in all my life, I don't think I've actually been inspired by another human being as much as my own son.
Wow.
And it's funny because as soon as Rob asked that question, I would have said exactly the same about you. That's exactly where I get it from.
Yeah.
Honestly, like almost word for word, Rob. Like that's exactly how I feel. That's where the work ethic comes from my parents. You know, the way that I live and breathe music because of them it's everything that my dad has said. It's like a mirror. You know, like all I've tried to do is take that and take it to, like, as you should, generation on generation, you should be taking stuff to the next level.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much, man.
Thank
I know we're here for a project, but I find it so nice seeing you guys have this conversation. I don't know how often you've had it, or
I don't think we've ever, not like this. We've never had
this. No, not really.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I would encourage you guys to document as much as you can.
100%. I mean, I'm sending Shah pulling together like archive footage. So we've got like pictures of like dad in the mobiles and my mum's school, and like, you know, the earliest pictures of me I could find with like instruments and stuff. We'll just try and pull it all together.
I've got some as well. I've got some of you, like from
Oh God. Make sure you run them by me before you send them. But honestly, this is an amazing thing, Rob. Like I was speaking to, I don't think she's doing it anymore, but I was speaking to Mabel about it earlier as well, because obviously her family, like her parents and brother, and like it's mad. And when I think of like the Adnugas and I think of TSB and J, it's like it's crazy. It's really nice actually to know. Obviously, I've never really had, other than Mabel, I've never really had a discussion with like my peers about, you know, their family and like
Yeah.
you know, and yeah, but it's just amazing to see so many parallels and so many of us, and as to just keep pushing this thing forward. It's just mad, it's mad for me to think that in, I don't know, 15 years time, my son could be working with Emanike or working with Mabel, or who knows, maybe even working with Craig. I mean, he might still be on the stage. Do you know what I mean? It's mad for me to think, wow, like it doesn't end at me.
Yeah. And also, thank you both for all the work you have put in, because the doors it opens, you probably open doors for your own family, but it's opened doors for so many of us as well. So we appreciate the hard work as well. We appreciate it big time.
Really welcome. It's an honor to be acknowledged for doing that, because when we were when we got signed, it was a real uphill battle to get the English major labels. Some Americans were interested in us, but the English major labels, it's just so hard to get them interested. So we had to do a lot of the stuff with remixes with the Dream Team to actually get a buzz around us, because they just did not get it. Or our A&R guys they were signed to us, but then they go home and then they listen to Phil Collins or Enya or something like that, right? You have to live the music. So we were kind of like really kind of at the forefront, and they kept saying that tired thing like, oh, you sound too American, or we're not quite sure how to market you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is why now it's amazing looking at the landscape.
And that's what I'm saying. When I see Trey and his friends and the way these guys work and the way they mix us, they're going along. There's so many different things. They interconnect. They support each other in a very different way.
But you know what? It's not even just like it's not even just in the studio. It's across the board. Like when you look at like all the tastemakers and DJs, when you look at like when I walk into the labels now, such a beautiful thing. Like 0207, I walk in there and I'm like, oh my God, like
this is it. Yeah.
Like, but it's like the groundwork for my parents, and then like the people I grew up listening to. Like, I don't know, I saw Tinchy was in 0207 the other day, and I was like, nobody even talks about the fact that in 2011, I think it was, he was the biggest selling male artist in the country. And it's like, and in 2 consecutive years, it was like Tyler Cruz and then him or something. And it's just like amazing to see. People don't credit someone like him enough, because he opened the doors for so many other people to, you know what I mean? And like this
as well, you know. Dizzy Rascal and what he was doing. I'm so
for real.
Like Stormzy, who are like your age, Shay, is like that. What he's done with the foundation is just amazing, man. I love to see it.
So I always tell people, like, I personally stand on the shoulders of giants, because I feel like right now in Black culture, we're in a little bit of the golden age where we're popular in mainstream culture. That is so popular, but there's been a lot that has had to happen to get to that point. That's why I say, like, document it, because we can forget that Tinchy story so easily if we don't go and find it. If that makes sense. But
which is why this is an amazing thing that's going on. So thank you so much for the chat.
One last thing I'll say is I also love the fact that Black British culture is now getting global. So when I was growing up, America almost seemed like a mythical place. Even the way their mixes sounded was like, wow, that sounds so American, right? But now there's no gap. You've got Americans doing collabs with British artists going over there and killing it, even in the acting world. Do you know what I mean? And it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You know, so Little Sims going on, killing it in the States. Absolutely love that girl. She's ridiculous. So I love it. It is a golden age, you're right, Rob.
Wicked. Well, thank you guys. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but
thank you, man.
Thanks so much for your time this evening. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. And I guess we'll chat soon. It'll be. Are you gonna go down? I don't know when the exhibition.
Hopefully I'll be down there as well.
Hopefully we get to meet in person.
Yeah. I'll probably need to link you soon anyway.
All right, cool, sweet.
R&B scene, so see what we can do.
Yeah, 100%. Give me a shout.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man. Chat soon.